The idea of flying, I think, was always with me, and some of that comes from those long, lonely summers out at the ranch and just looking at those big West Texas skies and looking up at the buzzards to just watch them soar and wonder what it would be like to be that free. I never set out to prove that women could be fighter pilots. I just set out to be one. I wanted to do the mission. I wanted to serve my country. My grandfather was a barnstormer of sorts, and then Dad's military service. All of that kind of came together when I was in high school, looking at ways to pay for college. I remember seeing a college catalog from the Air Force Academy. There was a picture in there of 4 F-16s in formation. And I just had this moment of, that's it. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm meant to do. And that's when I went and talked to that guidance counselor and said, this is it. This is what I want to do. And she just looked at me and said, you can't do that. I was unaware at the time that there was actually a law prohibiting women from flying in combat aviation. I remember thinking, that can't be true. I thought about it for a bit, but not long, because I had already had the bug at this moment. I ended up in Embry-Riddle on an Air Force ROTC scholarship, which I'm very, very grateful for. I remember thinking, it's just a law. Maybe things will change, and when they do change, I want to be ready. And so I began to approach it from that perspective. When the door does open, I want to be the most qualified candidate standing at the front of the line. Fiscal year that I graduated, there were just 100 pilots that were selected out of ROTC to be able to go to pilot training. When the colonel read my name, it was really a moment of disbelief. And then 5 days after I got my commission,
the system we had was always an unfair one.
The Secretary of Defense had actually recommended a change in policy and that women were going to be allowed effective immediately to enter into the combat aviation.
Now we've told these women that the sky is not a limit on them.
And so I was scheduled to start pilot training the following January. That was really the beginning of the really hard stuff. You know, there's no doubt it was a tough environment. I was the only female pilot in every squadron I was ever stationed in. And there were certainly men that thought I had no business being there. They didn't want the effect of a woman being in their squadron changing the culture. I tried not to make it personal because I knew they weren't reacting to me as a person negatively. They were reacting to the concept of women being allowed into their group. And so there was a desire to be just as perfect as I could. But I had some really great instructors, and I think that there was definitely a professionalism of the force, particularly in the fighter community, because they recognized that I was a member of their unit. They were going to have to go to war with me. It was in their best interest to make me as good as they could make me. And that unity that is created in those squadrons really, really did a lot to help me be successful. And, you know, I took that. I took it and ran with it.
We're unveiling today the F-15, which will be known as the Eagle.
I wanted the F-15 because it is an amazing platform. I wanted the C model variant, which is the single seat variant. It is that air-to-air role of really going out and doing that Snoopy and the Red Baron dogfighting. For our class, there was one F-15C, and I finished second in the class, and I got the F-15C. And it got a lot more fun at that point. Bring it now forward 50 years with modern technologies and avionics, digital flight controls. It is just a versatile, really capable, combat-proven aircraft. We do a lot of dangerous stuff, not only in training, but in combat. No matter what sort of scenario I found myself in, the F-15 brought me home safely every single time. And it's just a heck of a lot of fun to fly. There were a couple of moments that I recall very vividly. I was flying back from Iraqi freedom around back to Okinawa, and we were flying over and around the southern tip of India on the way home, and I could see it very clearly, you know, jetting into the ocean. I remember looking down and having that moment of thinking, how did a little girl from Marfa, Texas end up in an F-15 over the southern tip of India? It was just a moment of, how did this happen?